Hello, I'm Dr. John Smelcer, and welcome to another episode of Ahtna Myths. I think this is episode number 6. In the last episode we talked about how many myths there are, stories, traditional stories that teach us that we need to respect the resources that we use and depend on. Otherwise, they may not be available to us someday, and we'd starve and die. I remember one good story. It's relevant to Ahtna. We're a salmon people. Our name, Ahtna, comes from the Copper River. We are the people of the Copper River. Some people say we're the Copper River Indians. But either way, the Copper River has one of the best runs of salmon in the world. Every year, millions of salmon head upriver from Cordova, from the bay down there, Prince William Sound, and go up our rivers into the streams and creeks where they were born to spawn, to have babies. And we harvest an awful lot of them. We depend on salmon a lot. It's one of our primary food sources. And so it makes sense that there's stories about not disrespecting them. And in one story, there's a boy. It's almost always a boy. And the family has been cutting up salmon. And when we cut up salmon, we throw the guts and the heads back into the river so that the ghosts, the spirits of the salmon, will return to their people in the river. They can return to be with their spirits. To just throw them on the ground and let them rot, and flies and maggots to get them, we see as disrespectful. Well, there was this boy, and his family was cutting up salmon to hang on the drying rack. And the father gave him a bunch of the heads and guts and said, "Go throw those in the river, please." But the boy was lazy. It was like too far to the river. So he just kind of walked over in the woods when no one was looking, and he just dumped all those heads and guts and salmon parts. And he just dumped them, left them to rot in the sun. And he did this a couple times that day and didn't tell anybody. Well, the next day, that boy was walking along the edge of the river, maybe skipping stones or something. And while he was walking, he heard a voice that said, "Hey, over here, come here." And he followed the voice, and it kept saying, "Come here, hey boy, over here." And he crept to the edge of the bank of the river, this really swift, dangerous river, deep and dark. And he looked over, and there was a salmon head sticking out of the river a little bit. It was what we call shluka, kaska. Shluka is our word for salmon in general, and kaska is like the chief. So he was the chief of the salmon people. And he said, "Come here, boy." And the boy looked over the edge. And the boy said, "What do you want?" And he said, "Come a little closer. I need to talk to you. Come a little closer." And the boy crept slightly closer to that gravelly, loose edge until he fell in, and he drowned. And he died. And the moral of that story is, don't be wasteful. Don't be disrespectful. All right. Stay tuned for another story.